Hello everyone, welcome to the U.S. Immigration. You've planned your trip for months. Tickets booked, bags packed, goodbyes said. You step up to the airport check-in counter, hand over your passport, and everything feels routine until the agent types something, looks up, and calmly says the 4 words no traveler ever wants to hear. I'm sorry, you can't travel. This isn't a hypothetical situation. It's happening right now to travelers across the country, and in 2026, it's about to become far more common. U.S. Immigration Hub on this channel, we break down immigration and travel policy changes that actually impact real people. Today we're diving deep into the new passport and travel rules taking effect in 2026. These changes aren't about convenience anymore. They determine whether you're allowed to leave the country at all. International travel is going through its biggest transformation in decades. These are not small procedural tweaks. They are fundamental shifts in how passports are evaluated, how borders operate, and how airlines enforce rules. The most dangerous part, these changes aren't being loudly announced. They're being quietly rolled out across airports, airlines, and border checkpoints, meaning many travelers only find out when it's already too late. One rule catching travelers completely off guard is the passport 6-month validity requirement. This rule has existed for years, but in 2026, it's being enforced more aggressively than ever before. Most travelers assume that as long as their passport is valid for the duration of their trip, they're fine. If your vacation is 2 weeks long and your passport expires in 4 months, that sounds safe, right? Wrong. Many countries require your passport to remain valid for 6 full months beyond your entry date, not your return date. Some calculate from arrival, others from departure, and some from the end of your authorized stay. That creates a confusing web of rules that varies by destination. For example, if you travel to Thailand in March 2026 and your passport expires in August, immigration officials may determine that you fall short of the 6-month requirement and deny you entry. When that happens, you're detained at the airport, put on the next flight home, and everything you paid for, flights, hotels, tours, is gone. No refunds, no exceptions. What makes this situation even worse is that enforcement is inconsistent. You might pass through TSA without any issues, because U.S. security doesn't enforce foreign passport rules, but then the airline stops you at the gate. Or worse, you're allowed to board, fly for hours, and then get rejected by immigration upon arrival. At that point, you're sitting in an airport detention area in a foreign country waiting to be sent home. Countries that strictly enforce the 6-month rule include many popular destinations across Southeast Asia, South America, Africa, and the Middle East, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Brazil, Peru, Egypt, and Kenya, to name just a few. Europe adds another layer of confusion. The Schengen area generally requires 3 months of validity beyond departure, but some individual countries have stricter bilateral agreements. Travelers read generic advice online, assume they're safe, and then get turned away at the border. The harsh truth is that knowing these rules is entirely your responsibility. Airlines might catch it, but they're not required to, and border officers do not make exceptions. So, what's the safest move? Simple. If your passport expires within 12 months of your planned travel date, renew it before you book anything. Don't wait until you're near the 6-month mark. Routine passport processing currently takes 6 to 8 weeks. Expedited service costs extra and still takes 2 to 4 weeks. Faster options exist, but they're expensive and difficult to schedule. Another issue people overlook is the gap created during renewal. While your passport is being processed, you cannot travel internationally at all. That means you must plan a buffer period with no trips scheduled. If you have travel coming up soon, you need to decide right now whether your passport is sufficient or whether you must renew and delay your plans. In 2026, border enforcement is rigid. Immigration officers are not flexible, sympathetic, or negotiable. These rules exist to be enforced, not interpreted in your favor. Now let's talk about ATIS, the European Travel Information and Authorization System, launching in 2026. If you're an American traveling to Europe, this is critical. ETIAS is Europe's version of the US ESTA system. It's a digital travel authorization required for visa-free travelers entering the 30 Schengen countries, including France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Greece. Before traveling, you'll complete an online application, submit passport details, travel information, and answer security questions. The fee is €7 and approvals are usually granted within minutes. Once approved, ETIAS is valid for 3 years, or until your passport expires. It allows multiple entries of up to 90 days within any 180-day period. Sounds simple, but here's the catch. Official guidance says apply at least 72 hours before travel, but honestly, experts recommend applying weeks in advance, especially during the rollout phase when delays are common. Why apply early? Because if your application is flagged for manual review, processing can take days or even weeks. A past travel issue, name similarity, or database match can put your authorization on hold. If you apply 3 days before departure and get flagged, your trip is over. Another overlooked detail, EDS is required even for airport transit. If you're flying from the United States to another country with a layover in Europe, you still need ETS even if you never leave the airport. Airlines will deny boarding if you don't have it, and every traveler needs their own approval, including children and infants. Families must manage multiple applications, fees, and approvals. ETS represents a larger global shift toward pre-screening travelers before they even reach the airport. This is the new reality of travel. Showing up with a passport and ticket is no longer enough. Countries now require digital authorizations, ETS, ETA, ETA, NZETA, e-visas, each with different rules, validity periods, and costs. Miss one requirement and you don't fly. Airlines are legally responsible for checking documents and face fines if they fail. That means enforcement happens at check-in, not at the border. Travel in 2026 requires planning weeks or months ahead. You must research entry rules for every destination and transit country, track authorization expiration dates, and ensure everything is approved before departure. This is the unglamorous side of travel that social media never shows, but it's now unavoidable. Now, let's talk about Real ID. As of May 2025, Real ID enforcement is active for domestic flights in the US. To pass TSA security, you need a Real ID compliant license or a passport. Real ID licenses have a star symbol in the corner. If your license doesn't have it, TSA won't accept it. Many travelers use their passport instead, but that creates another problem. Passports are not meant for frequent domestic use. Repeated scanning causes wear, bending, and damage. If your passport becomes difficult to scan or verify, foreign immigration authorities can reject it, even if it's still valid. Using your passport for domestic flights increases the risk of forced early renewal or denial abroad. This becomes especially risky when combined with the 6-month validity rule. A worn passport nearing expiration can create a double problem. The smarter solution is getting a Real ID compliant license. The process varies by state, but usually requires proof of identity, social security number, and residency. Appointments take under an hour, and processing takes a few weeks. Once you have Real ID, your passport stays protected for international travel only. There's also a timing issue many people miss. In many states, you need your passport to obtain Real ID, but you also need to send that passport away to renew it. If you don't plan carefully, you can end up without valid federal ID for weeks. The solution is strategy. Get Real ID first, then renew your passport. That way, you're never stuck without identification. And Real ID isn't just for flying. Starting in 2026, it's required for entry into federal buildings, military bases, and courthouses. These days, travel documentation is now interconnected. Your passport actually affects your Real ID, and Real ID in turn affects how you can use your passport. Expiration dates play a big role in figuring out the right time for renewal. Honestly, nothing exists in isolation anymore. Beyond just the documents, airport operations themselves are changing fast. Biometric screening and facial recognition are expanding across airports worldwide. Cameras now verify your identity at check-in, boarding, and customs by matching your face to passport data. This speeds up processing, but isn't consistent everywhere. Some airports use it fully, others partially. Accuracy issues and privacy concerns remain, and while you can opt out, doing so usually means longer lines and delays. The system strongly encourages participation, even if the choice is technically optional. Another major change is stricter carry-on enforcement. Airlines are now measuring and weighing bags at gates. Standard limits are becoming uniform, 22 by 14 by 9 inches, including wheels. Weight limits around 17 to 22 pounds are enforced. Oversized or overweight bags are gate-checked with fees up to $75. Airlines are doing this for safety, but also revenue. The old strategy of stuffing everything into a carry-on no longer works. Travelers must measure, weigh, and pack intentionally. What worked last year may fail today. Taken together, travel in 2026 is defined by tighter rules, digital authorizations, biometric systems, and, honestly, zero flexibility. Success now depends on preparation, not assumptions. Alright, so, first things first. Check your passport early. Make sure you research every destination and transit stop, just to cover all your bases. Apply for authorizations well in advance, and don't forget to secure your real ID. Measure your luggage and, well, always build in some buffer time. These days, travel no longer forgives mistakes. If this breakdown helped you, go ahead and subscribe to the US Immigration Hub channel. We track these changes so you don't have to. And hey, share this with anyone traveling in 2026, they likely don't know what's coming. Plan smart, stay informed, and travel prepared. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.